Thanks very much. Good morning to everybody and welcome. Thank you very much for attending what is now our third annual meeting as a member of the club. We appreciate you taking all the time. Appreciate you taking time to be here in person this morning, and we are also recording this to be put on the website for those who can't be here this morning. Today's agenda is on the two screens on either side of me. And first off, John Melzer will announce the results of the proxy votes for the board members, officers, and bylaw revisions. And then we'll turn our focus to a couple of important items and updates. We expect the meeting to take about an hour, and we'll leave time at the end for questions and the conclusion. So after John, TJ will give us his first report of the current state of the club from a operations standpoint. And then Colin will give us a quick look at the past year and look forward on what the Greens Committee is going to be working on. We're then going to get a summary of our finances from Casey. And after that, we will turn the mic over to Zyra, who is going to report on the strategic plan that she and her very hard-working committee have delivered as of this date to the board. I'll follow up after that with the strategic plan initiative coordinators and wrap it up with a few thank you notes, and then we'll leave it open to questions. So thanks to everybody for coming, and John, you're up with the results of the vote. Thank you.
Well, thank you for those who voted in advance. We received 60% of the membership of provided proxies. We do have a majority of yays, which is good. For the directors, 153 yeses, 3 abstentions, and 1 no. And for the bylaws, 155 for, 1 abstention, and 1 no. Somebody does. For those of you that did not vote, I would encourage you to grab a ballot at the front. Even though it's officially approved, we would like for the corporate record to have everyone vote if possible. For those that didn't read the bylaw revisions, let me tell you, they're riveting. You should, I encourage you to get them and read through them. So one other note on the nominees for directors, because we've been able to reduce our debt from 13 million down to what, about 4.5. The member lenders very graciously agreed to reduce the number of board members from 2 to 1. The bylaws stipulate that they get 2 board members, but they provided a waiver, so there's only 1, which is why we now have 8 elected directors. I'll just quickly highlight the bylaw revisions and see if there's any questions. There are 4 of them. They're pretty simple. I don't think they're controversial. One is we changed the number of days from 60 to 45 in terms of providing to the membership the slate of nominees for the board, administrative detail. Number 2, we tried to kind of reinforce the delinquency penalties. That we have some repeat offenders that aren't paying their bills on time, and we wanted to make sure we kind of codified that in the bylaws. And then thirdly, one of the key, probably the most substantive one, is we wanted to put a limitation on the board's ability to expend the initiation fees. The bylaws restrict the board from using cash, I should say assessing members for things other than for casualties like insurance. But there's no restriction previously in the bylaws as it relates to expending initiation money. So the board could effectively have the discretion, to spend at will. In fact, technically the golf shop, we spent about 1.7 million of funds to get that completed out of the initiation money. I don't think that's at all controversial. That's something we had to do. But with the new bylaws, we would have had to put that to a membership vote. So those are basically the main things in the bylaws. If you have any questions, otherwise we'll move on.
Good.
Next.
Good morning, everybody. And thank you, John. Is Mike organized? So it's a pleasure to stand in front of you today for my first in-person opportunity to express my gratitude for the opportunity I've been presented here at Coral Creek. It hasn't been the most predictable first 7 or 8 months since moving here with my family, but my wife was looking at me in September and October and thinking that snow didn't seem too bad in the face of a couple of hurricanes. But we are incredibly fortunate to be part of this community and to now call Florida home. Before I get into some of the updates, I want to acknowledge and thank the outgoing board members, Casey, Dan, Bill, and Amy, and welcome the new board members. I was going to say congratulate them, but I'm not sure that congratulations is in order. Don, Scott, Joe, and Sharon. So welcome to the board. I've learned a lot of things about your club in the first 7 or 8 months. Nothing stands out more to me though than the hard work that the inaugural board put in to get us to where we are today. We have a foundation to build from now, and kudos to the board. Not everyone here today and has been acknowledged, but we now have strong footings to move forward on, so thank you very much for that. From day one, our goal has been clear. It's been to enhance the Coral Creek Club experience. That may sound broad, but simply put, this should be one of your favorite places to spend time. Favorite place to golf, favorite friendships, and to share time with family. Hopefully, you've seen already some of the enhancements, some more obvious than others, of course. My first impressions of the course when I came to the club, and this wasn't an operation of fix something that's broken. This is how do we make something that's already good, great. And so that to me is more of the feeling when you come through the gates than it is what you see or the people you interact with. No doubt, this place is filled with great people, and that will always be our secret weapon. Great people make this place, and that's from a membership standpoint and from a staff standpoint. So we are committed to continuing to staff this place with great people as we move forward and fill the club with future great people, most likely friends of yours. We've improved our communications here at the club. No doubt you've seen the weekly communications through Club Essentials, and we just recently unveiled our first edition of Creek Talk. Creek Talk was a more thorough magazine style that you would have seen that highlighted some of the new staff members and gave you a little snapshot from a strategic point of what we look forward to doing down the road. We also incorporated a guest document that we've received feedback already. It's very important to us that guests that you invite to come to Coral Creek are comfortable when they arrive. And we now have a document that you can send them prior to their visit to better prepare them, and also to hold our team accountable for the guest experience that we should provide. So that was a nice addition, and I hope you find that one well received. Some of the smaller details that seem obvious but weren't quite in place the way we would like is we've added consistency through our team uniforms. We've enhanced services on the practice team, and we're overall tasked our team to find differentiators in your guest and member experience. So we're trying daily to find ways to better improve your golfing experience, dining experience, and any time spent behind the gates. Our team remains focused to elevate your daily experience, and we're just getting started. Chef Foos and Allison have done an outstanding job to create an atmosphere that is now matching the golf course. This is a place now that is becoming the more forefront in your brain when you think dinners, right? We have seen dinner traction so far this year that exceeds anything in the last several years. And kudos to Allison and Chef Foos for being able to highlight some different theme nights. We're trying different stuff. I think that's the important part, is that are we there yet? We're not there yet, but we're willing to try different stuff. We want to see you guys here on a regular basis. We want to give you reasons to come here on a regular basis. it would be remiss if I didn't just highlight the exceptional party that we just had on a couple of Saturdays ago now. That was a great night. Any of those that brought guests, I hope you were proud of the experience your guests took that night. I think we're on the right page there, and that's how your club should be highlighted. When we get together, we gather in a social setting. On the golf course, you've seen elevated conditions. No doubt we've got better putting surfaces, meticulously manicured bunkers, firmer, faster fairways and surrounds. All those have been great. But one key initiative that we're excited about, and we're in the finishing stages, is we're going to put into some mosquito remediation program in place. That doesn't sound like something to get overly excited about until you've been here at the worst. And shout out to Jason Pananos, one of our members here, who really sent us down a path where we feel that we'll get substantial change to the conditions. You have an already short season. The last thing we want to do is it to be effective and made it shorter. We feel that with these programs, remediation, barrier treatments, larvae treatments, that will effectively change the mosquito population in the area and enhance your golfing experience no matter when. Out of the survey that you guys all took, the top priority was no surprise when it boils down to reflecting and protecting this beautiful golf course we have. Water security came out of the survey as our top priority. And not surprisingly, when it being your top priority, we acted as quickly as we could to start navigating ways to ensure that we could secure the appropriate amount of water to maintain even the toughest stroke conditions. And we put a task force together. We've had several meetings already, and we're looking at ways to use less water, how we can add to our reservoir so we have a longer sustained drought periods. Droughts are becoming more common, they've lasted longer, we saw it last summer. Just to give you kind of a high level, easy numbers, when we have a water event on the course where we water a full course water, we have about enough water in our pond on number 7 to last about 10 days without replenishment. And that could increase if we shrink the amount of water we put on the golf course, and we would in the event it was droughty. We scaled back to where we were just doing hand watering, and we do just tees and fairways, and we start to let the rough kind of do its thing. Our goal is to last at least 60 days, and 60 days to us, and if we went conservatively on that water, would probably be even increased further than that. That far exceeds any drought that we've seen to date, or any that we think could be possible. But our goal is to be able to sustain for at least 60 days with no rain and no replenishment and still keep your golf course alive. We feel we've identified in early stages a solution which would include, I think our deepest pond on the property is number 8. And the ability to line number 8 so that the water can be usable through our irrigation system is, I think, the early stages, our most viable and resourceful solution to do that. And combined with holes 7 and 8, those 2 ponds together would give us that 60 days of capacity and a nice water retention. So those are early stages, but as your top priority, we're fast tracking that, and we feel that we'll be able to provide further updates and come to a viable solution, which hopes we can pass that. We've been working behind the scenes on a new website. Again, I think the new website is a big piece of when people should and can get excited about Coral Creek. When you invite somebody or they hear about the club for the first time, they should see how awesome this place is. And on our current website, they don't get the full story. So we're working hard to update that. I've got a little video here that I hope to show that I think will, it's still in the early stages, this video even, but I wanted to show you just how cool your course can look and how it should be viewed. So I'm going to just play that video for you here really quickly.
course where you're removed from the distractions of modern urban life. A club where access is key, where you play when you want, on your schedule. An experience not found anywhere else in the Boca Grande and Fort Myers area. That's Coral Creek, where the spirit of old Florida blends seamlessly to create a great member club with amazing amenities just minutes from the coast. Created by the legendary Tom Fazio, the designer was given a blank canvas for the course in an incredible setting, where eagles soar and punctuated by the flowing waters of meandering creeks. The result is a golf course that perfectly fits the land, walkable and intriguing. The course presents the ideal blend of challenge and adventure, making for a thoroughly enjoyable experience that demands to be played again and again. The best part is you, your friends, and your guests will be fully engaged in an experience that's removed from distractions. No houses, just walking 18 holes of great golf with a caddy and enjoying a world-class practice facility, as well as our intimate, wonderfully appointed clubhouse. Beyond the course, Coral Creek is a place where friends come together in their mutual love of the club and great golf. That means spending time having a drink or meal on our outdoor patio while watching your fellow members navigating the majestic 18th hole. With wonderful member events held regularly through the season, you'll find our staff are here to make your experience special each and every day. Enjoy a course crafted by a legend and a club that's legendary. Welcome to Coral Creek.
So hopefully you get a
Of
sense
course,
of
where you're removed from the
We only just So hopefully you get a sense of the direction we want to go. This is a place that's special. You guys know it, you feel it. Others that haven't visited yet should also be able to feel that, and I believe that they will when we move forward with the new website. Before I hand things over to Colin to do his Greens Department update, I did want to take a moment to thank my entire team here at Coral Creek. Their commitment to embracing the new initiatives and the continuously finding ways to enhance our member experience has been commendable. Change is not easy. They've been tasked to think differently, act differently, unlearn a few things, learn a few things, and from my standpoint, they've been doing an outstanding job. So congratulations and thank you to them. And last, thank you again for this opportunity to lead this team in the next stages. It's exciting to be a part of this journey, and I feel grateful, so thank you very much.
Hey everybody, how are you? Last annual meeting, we identified a few things that we thought were important on the grounds. It was the irrigation project, and we successfully completed that on time, in budget. It was a very large project for us. We also had the drainage improvements on 5 and 9. Accomplished that over the summer. So that was also very positive. We ran into some issues with lake banks on number 8. We had to replace that. It was something that was not in the budget, but it was something we had to do, so we did go through that process and did that. So our summer was going great, and then we ran into the hurricanes. Made it through the hurricanes very successfully, had some assessments, went through some processes, fixed some things. I think we came through it very well. I think the golf course is in a very good position right now. We also had our superintendent resigned. We were in a good position to deal with that because we had good people behind us. TJ was there. Brandon had a lot of experience. He's been a lead before, so Brandon stepped in. Brandon's currently in interim capacity, but he will become, hopefully, effective long-term on April 1. We did a 6-month term for him. I haven't seen anything. I don't think anybody here has seen anything that would make us think that Aaron would not be, or not Aaron, Jesus. Aaron is good too. Brandon will be a very good replacement for him. We're hoping that we can seal that in the next few weeks and get that secured going forward. So overall, I think we went through the summer very successfully, on plan, on budget, the way we wanted to, and then we just ran into some difficulties with 2 hurricanes. And it wouldn't surprise me if we deal with that a lot going forward. I'm hoping that we don't. So So this year, we have a couple more objectives that we're going to try to achieve, and we're going to try to do that this summer. Our boundary on number 5 is clearly not good right now, and we've already put in place, budgeted, planned, we've engaged to replace that fence, but we're also going to put a bougainvillea hedge on it that we think will have a more long-term effect, that we won't probably have to go through this process anytime we have a hurricane. And we actually think it'll be a lot prettier. I know a lot of you guys were here when we had the honeysuckle vines that were on the fence, and it actually smelled fantastic. I think that the new process of putting bougainvillea with the actual fence in there is going to cost a little more. I think it'll be much more long-term, and it'll last a lot more, and it'll last better, and it'll be prettier for us. The other component of this summer that's a long-term project is we still have some tree replacements to do. Last year during the summer, we replaced 3 or 4 very critical trees that we lost in Ian. We still haven't replaced all the trees we lost in Ian. So we had a 3-phase approach that we got approved over a 3-year period. So there'll be some minimal trees that we'll do this year, and then a smaller amount in the 3rd year as well. So that's in the long-term plan. But mostly, our objectives and what we talk about in terms of conditioning is just firm, fast, consistent green surfaces. And I've been here since 2009. I think the green surfaces are as good as they've been right now. I don't know that they're always as consistently fast as we want them, but we're working to that, to have them be consistent. So I think Brandon's done an excellent job. And then the other 2 things that we really want to focus on, and I don't know if you guys noticed this, but our teeing grounds have developed an enormous amount of thatch in them, so it's very hard to get the teeing grounds to a low tee level to where you could actually hit something other than a driver off of a tee here. But Brandon really did a good job starting last year in August, and he cleaned out a ton of thatch, and I think if you actually notice that the teeing grounds are a lot firmer now, so it makes for better playability. And then the real important thing that I'd like for us to do is to get our surrounds to be firm and fast again. This golf course is designed for balls to run off the greens when they land on the greens, and I think that the surrounds have gotten a little bit soft. And if we want the course to play the way that Fazio designed it to play, which is always what we're trying to achieve, I think we need to firm those up, which will require some work over the summer for Brandon to do that. And then the last thing that we did, and that we'll continue to work on, is to get a first cut of rough in place. If you play golf here when it gets warm out, so a lot of you guys aren't here in October and November, but the rough gets to very thick and very, very tall. So if you get maybe 1 foot out of the fairway, you're almost penalized more than what you would be if you were 15 yards out of the fairway. So we thought to make the course fairer, that we should institute a first cut of rough that will slow those balls down before they go into. So that's the playability objectives for the year. This summer will be the fence is probably the biggest thing that we're working on. And then subsequent to that, we'll just keep focusing on firm, fast conditions and good, consistent greens. I will add one more thing. We've had some questions about various types of grasses that are starting to show up in the fairway right now from the tip top that we put in 3 years ago on renovation. We're definitely seeing some contamination. Brandon identified 5 different types of grass. So this summer we're going to institute a fairway green nursery behind number 5, and we're going to put 4 different types of grasses there. We're going to put a tip top, a celebration, a bemini, and a Georgia. Georgia's not going to work, I tell you that now, but we're going to do it anyway. And we're going to assess the 4 of them, see how they work, and determine if there's might be a better long-term grassing solution for our fairways, tees, and roughs. So we're not doing that. We're going to assess it, see how it grows, figure out what's the best and how things react the best way, and then we'll institute that going forward. So that's all that I have, unless anybody has any major complaints about the golf course condition. Chad will answer those questions.
What's that? I think you're running, that's right. morning. So I thought today that hopefully everybody had a chance to read the letter we sent out last week. We tried to summarize a little bit of everything, kind of give sources and uses of all the projects we've had, mainly the irrigation and the 2 hurricanes, all the money we spent, where the money came from, and then a little bit where we're going. I'm not going to put up the audited financials. If people want to ask questions at the end, I'll try to answer them, but thought it was better just to kind of talk about the things I just mentioned in a little bit more informative. So we'll do that. So our biggest expense since we purchased the club was Hurricane Ian. It's cost us nearly $5 million. You can see here it's about $1.6 million on the non-pro shop building expenses. A lot of that was the new roof on the building we're in right now, but that's the total amount we spent otherwise repairing and dealing with Hurricane Ian. The pro shop building, we're spending about $3.3 million. This is the estimated remaining, so we're not quite final, but we're very close to final. We feel pretty confident that this is going to be the right final number. So how did we pay for this? Well, as you know, we assessed $3,500, which is about $1 million from the club. We recovered $2.2 million in insurance, and we used $1.7 from initiation fees. So that's how this was paid for. One thing I would note, these were our deductibles on our insurance policies. This is how much we spent on grounds and greens cleanup. You can't get grounds and greens insurance in Florida within a half mile of the coastline in hurricane-prone areas. So you just have to pay for that. That's what happened with Helene as well. That's why we set it for Helene. So one way to look at this is we essentially covered these 2 numbers with assessments and insurance, and the initiation fees kind of covered everything else for what it's worth. So that's how we paid for Ian. Let's go to the next one. So the 3 main capital projects, how did we pay for them? Not only on an aggregate basis, but on a member basis. I'll bet you before today, if I'd asked 100 people how much we spent since we joined the club, every one of them would have said some number under $8.2 million. But that's how much we've spent since we've owned the club. We've had a lot going on. Irrigation projects, which we knew when we purchased the club, as Colin said, came in on budget. Half was paid for through assessments, half through the initiation fees. Ian, as I already mentioned, we just went through that, and then we just had an assessment for Milton. Again, grounds and greens, you can't get coverage on grounds and greens. So this is how everything was paid for. 2.8 of assessments, but everything else covered by insurance and initiation fees. On a per member basis, this is what it looks like. The only thing I want to highlight here is, again, the irrigation was known when we purchased the club. We really only had to assess $4,500 for the 2 hurricanes, which isn't bad given the extent of the 3 hurricanes, given the extent of the hurricanes. And I would like to highlight this. Our lenders, who I've highlighted every year, the 2 years prior to this as well, our lenders not only bought the club for us, but there's a covenant in the docs that they can take principal out anything over $500,000. They haven't, and not only did they not, when we were dealing with these hurricanes, they came to me and they said, you know what, we know that we can limit this, but we're not going to do what's right for the club. So at no time did they say pay us down. At no time did any of the 27 lenders ever come to me and say, hey, how are we going to get paid down? Right. So one more time, I want to thank the lenders for what they've done for all of us. And just highlight without them, this 12.2 either we would have had to assess, or more likely we wouldn't have that addition to the pro shop right now, which we kind of needed. So go ahead if you would, TJ. One note on dues. You know, the survey, we got a lot of comments on dues and the increases in dues. And yeah, dues have gone up a lot since we purchased the club. But one thing I would highlight, this is the dues that was charged the year before we bought the club. This is a substantial operating loss. This is how much it cost to run the club that year. As those of you who are here know, we were operating at a loss. They were taking initiation fees. They were using that to cover the loss. Then they were taking all the profit out and booking a liability to all future members. That's how we ended up buying a club with 0 cash and $47 million in debt. A structure that just wouldn't work. We had to start covering our costs. So these were our actual costs. This is our dues and fees this year without debt service. That's a 17% increase since we purchased the club. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, in the 3 years since dues were set by our prior owners to what we just set, inflation's up 21%. So yes, dues are up quite a bit, but we think we're managing it reasonably well vis-a-vis what we've been dealing with. Just a quick comment on that. And this, I put this exact same slide up in November of 22 without this column. Same clubs, these were their dues and fees at that time. It was $24,000. If you just gross these up, The average cost of these clubs would now be $29,000. So I spot checked this, I got about 5 or 6 numbers, I'm gonna highlight 2. The Bears Club, if you gross that up by 21%, it would be 35 grand. The Bears Club is currently 40. Calusa Pines, if you gross that up by 21%, it's 24, it's currently 31. Now, to be fair, I got 6 or 7 numbers. One of them was lower than this, but I think there's a likelihood that the average of these clubs is greater than 29,000 right now. So even with our debt service, we're below that, and without debt service, which probably none or few of these clubs have debt service, we're still 30% below some of the nicer clubs in Florida. So just another comment. All right, our debt. So I was asked last week by a member, one of the 26 new members since we bought the club, after he read the letter, he said, well, how did you buy a club with 0 cash and $43 million of debt? He said, how? He goes, where did that come from? I said, well, the prior member could take in 3 members and pay off 1. So when we bought the club, we had 294 members we needed to refund. At the time, your initiation fee was 175 grand and they were owed 85% of that. So if you multiply 175 grand times 85% times 294 members, that's the number. That's how we had that debt. And by the way, if we used the same structure and raised it to 250 the next day, this number would have gone to $62 million the next day because it floated up. Clearly a structure that just wasn't going to work. But I just want to explain that because I got the question, I'm like, yeah, I've never explained that number. I probably should explain that number. But that's where it came from. So we voted to cap ourselves at 125. That reduced this debt by $7 million overnight. We've actually paid off $2.9 million worth of the 26 members who have left. We paid them off $2.9 million. We had one person donate. They resigned and donated theirs back. That reduced the debt. So we're now at 33.7. Now, this is going to take decades to pay off because everybody who was a member when we bought the club gets its refund. So this is going to be here for decades, but it's self-funding. We only pay it when a new member joins. So none of us is ever going to have to take cash out of our pockets. It's self-funding. This debt is real debt, right? Our lender debt. As you can see, we have scheduled principal every year, but then we had the prepayment plan that we put in last year. We just had 5 more prepayers last week. We made that payment on Friday. So we are now down to a principal balance of $4.5 million on this debt. 160 of our current 261 regular members have prepaid at this point, or 62%. So all in, our debt has gone from here to here, so we're down 33%. This one's going to take decades. This one hopefully will get paid off over the next few years. But we're on a good path. So, we run the club, dues and yearly capital fees. The yearly capital fees are for the yearly capital, new refrigerator, smaller stuff that we budget for. The big capital projects, at least the way we run it now, comes out of initiation fees. That's the intent anyway. So, 26 new members at 250, plus we took a 25 grand deposit from somebody. That's how much we've collected. There's our interest income. And here's how we spent. I just mentioned we've refunded $2.9 million to outgoing members. We had one refund of a person who prepaid their debt and then went to senior, so they get their refund back, and they did. And as mentioned before, $1.5 million went to the irrigation project, 1.7 went to the hurricanes. That's the total expenses. We have about $500,000 unencumbered in our capital account right now. So if we need to do something quickly on like water or something like that, we can do it. So that's where our capital account. All right, go ahead, we're done. So this is a little complicated. I was asked to take a look forward. I really don't like to do that. I don't like to make projections. I'm not calling any of these projections, but I will take a look forward because I was asked to take a look forward. So I got all the number of members who joined every year. Didn't have them before 2003. This is when we were coming out of bankruptcy, I believe, so people were rejoining at this time. So I eliminated those, and I eliminated the 2 COVID years. If you average the numbers in white, we've had 8.25 new members join you. So I used 8 new members at 250. We're refunding 125. It's actually a little less than that at times. But if you just do that, you take our average outside of these years, over the next 5 years, here's the capital increase, right? Now, this assumes the board doesn't spend any money on anything and we don't pay refunds to any of the people who prepay. Unrealistic, right? So these are just complete guesses by me. If we spend 250 grand this year on a water thing, maybe, I don't know. But the board will spend some money, it isn't going to be zero. So let's say they spend $250 a year on various small projects, and then we have prepayers who either resign or go to senior and they get refunded of 100. So this is probably a more realistic look of the capital related over the next 5 years. Again, I'm not projecting. I mean, this number could be 12, it could be 2, I don't know, but just trying to frame it for reference a little bit, just trying to frame it. One note, if you take a rolling 3-year or 5-year average of all the numbers in white, the worst 3 and 5-year rolling years we've had is 6 members a year. That's the worst. So you probably think like, okay, that's probably a good baseline to start at. If you do that, these two numbers become 3 3/4 and 2 million. So we still should have some money to do some projects. Now, one note here, John alluded to this going forward. When the bylaws were written a few years ago, really wanted this to be a member-owned, member decision-making club on big capital projects. And so we couldn't assess at all for capital improvements. I mean, disaster we could, but no capital improvements at all, and that was done on purpose because we wanted members to decide, right? This wasn't intentional, but we kind of left out like, okay, well, if this fund grows to 5 million, there's nothing to govern the board can spend the whole 5 million. So after we spent essentially $1.5 million on the new pro shop, making that addition, the finance committee and the board, like we thought, you know what, we probably shouldn't be able to make that decision by ourselves. Even though we're not assessing our fellow members, we probably shouldn't be able to do that. Hence the new bylaw that from now on, any capital project over $500,000 has to be voted on, no matter where the money's coming from, right? So we wouldn't have been able to do that going forward. Now, we're very happy with it. We hope you're all very happy with it. We think it turned out great, but just thought that the members should be able to vote on things like that going forward. So that's kind of it for that slide. One last thing. It's not really on the slide. So I was going to talk about strategy and some of the things that came out of the survey and some of the potential projects going forward. And I was just asked to make a comment on this, and no, I'm not going to be on the board going forward, but I think right now there's a thought that given the survey results, that there's probably not a lot of appetite for further assessments right now. So on that last slide, I think the thought is probably to see how that capital builds over the next 1 to 5 years for any of these projects that she's going to talk about, and probably fund them that way. But the great thing about the way we're set up is, let's say we get to year 3 or 5 and the members are, you know what, I really want to see something better with this room. Let's vote ourselves an assessment and let's fix this room. You know, we can do that. But I think for the near term, the thought is probably to see how that capital builds and see what we can do without an assessment. So this is a summary. I'm not going to go through it because I just went through everything. The only thing I will highlight is that, you know, at clubs, the irrigation system and the roofs of their major buildings are big capital expenditures you're going to have every couple decades. Well, we've done all 3 of those in the last 2 or 3 years, so we said for a while. And then finally, not just in our capital account, but in our operating account, we also have about 500 in reserves. We have a nice cushion in reserves in both of those accounts. So that's the basics. I'll answer questions at the end with everybody else. But before I go, I did want to thank a few people. So one, a finance committee that we've had over the last few years, John Berg, Brian Hogan, Tom Hoffman, Jim Ziegelbauer, have been great to work with and appreciate all their help. Wish Joe Simon good luck. He'll be great. He'll be great going forward here. And one thing when you have this role, and particularly when we've had the issues that we have, one thing you find at Coral Creek is there's an expert 1 or 2 phone calls away about everything here, which is nice, right? You can find someone who really knows something, and everybody that I've reached out to has been very helpful. When I highlight 2 people, Bill Bax spent many months with us setting up our financials. It's nice to have a guy who was the audit chair of several Fortune 500 companies helping you set up your financials. It makes it a little bit easier to do. And Jeff McCart, who's the president of the Southeast region of a major insurance brokerage and consulting firm, to lean on him for hurricane recovery. It's really nice to have that expertise too. And I'm just giving those 2 examples, but there's been a lot of people here that have expertise that have helped out, and it's much appreciated. And then lastly, I want to highlight Chris Van Us, our CFO, who has done a lot behind the scenes that people don't see. He brought our payroll inside that saved us $90 grand a year. I'm probably the only member who knows that. Now, a couple of board members know that, but not many people know that. He set up our 401k. He deals with our auditors. He deals with our tax guys. He does all the day-to-day stuff kind of behind the scenes. He's doing a great job. And then lastly, Angie Mills, who Angie had a tough, she had a tough draw. She had a full-time CFO at our prior owners. And then we bought him and she got stuck with me. Because Chris wasn't here that first year. And she had a lot to do. We changed banks, we changed our accounting, we hired auditors, we went from writing paper checks to doing it all online. She had a lot to deal with and she dealt with it great, never complained, so I want to thank her as well. And that was it. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
They saved the best for last. How about that? It's not last, and it's last. So he can take all the blame for whatever we blame. But good morning again, and thank you for this opportunity. About a year ago, a little bit longer, the board commissioned a strategic planning committee to develop a 5-year strategic plan for our new club. This will be the first, and we're proud and happy to say we delivered that plan to the board, and it was approved at the board meeting last month. So we now know where we are and hopefully where we're heading. I want to take this opportunity to thank the members of that committee. Brian Barr, I think he's also now involved in the water project with PJ. Scott Ackerman, David Court, Jim Johnson, Bill LaPointe, Casey Newell, and TJ Alderines, who joined us when he became the general manager for the club. Thank you, gentlemen. It was a pleasure working with you. I appreciate all the contributions you made. Somebody very famous said you're fired. This is one of those committees where we actually had a project and finished it and now free to go. Please join any of the other projects that we have in mind. The plan is comprehensive and has a lot of valuable information. Today we will focus on outlining the strategic initiatives, the implementation priorities based on member input. We will not have time for a lot of details, but we forward to you electronically this past Saturday a copy of the executive summary via Flipbook that you can look at, and it will provide you with a lot of the details. Key to the committee's work and the work directive was to be data-driven. We based our work on information we gathered from member insights and from industry trends. We engaged as many members as possible. Some of you may have thought we were harassing you when we sent the 4th reminder to complete the survey, but it paid off. We ensure objectivity through the data collection, but also by retaining a nationally recognized consultant that can help us manage the survey, the focus groups, and our work. We retain the services of the McMahon Group, which many of you may be familiar with. They are nationally recognized, and you may recognize them as well from work they may have done at your club. We work closely with them, and we had 5 focus groups, which many of you may have participated on. I think we had about 55 members participate in the focus groups. And then the comprehensive survey. We opted to send the survey to every single member of the club, not just the certificate owner or holder, but also to the spouse, significant other. In total, we sent 568 surveys, and we are happy to say the response at the end is fantastic. We had an 82% response from member households, which means 82% of our members were represented in this survey. This is a number that compares incredibly favorable to the average that McMahon typically gets in the 50s. So it's an excellent result. And this, plus the focus groups, plus the rest of the information we gather, gives us a high degree of confidence that the plan that we provided reflects the direction the members want to pursue. We will send to you an electronic copy of the full plan as well in the next coming days. I'm sure you will be interested in looking at it. We encourage you to read it, and we encourage you to ask us any questions, reach out to us for additional information or clarification. So now, let's take a look at some of the takeaways. This has a lot of things, but I think that they are important. This is what we learned from the surveys and the focus groups, from workshops that we did with the board of directors, from staff input. What we learned is that we start from a position of strength. We are in a favorable place, and as Casey noted, financially as well. We don't have any urgency except for the water project, which is our #1 priority. And when I say our #1 priority, it means it came through in the survey as the #1 priority for all of the members that participated. Overall, member satisfaction is high. We have an 86% member satisfaction compared to industry average of 91 for similar clubs. We're doing well, but we can do better. There are opportunities to elevate the member experience that do not require capital investments. So not everything that we want to do, that we listed as we want to do, it will require capital investments. There are some things that we can do without having to spend money. We have a highly valued golf course, and we know that. That's not a surprise. It's come through in every single survey that we have done. The concern for water security is our #1 priority, as I mentioned it before, and we are already taking steps to do something about it. It doesn't sound very sexy and really exciting, but it's a very important project and one that we will undertake in the very, very near future. We learned that the members are happy with the social programming that we have at Coral Creek, but they want more. We like being with each other and looking for more and more opportunities to have social events that will allow us to gather again. Improvement of our facilities is also a highlight and a takeaway. Primarily optimization of the clubhouse space. Casey mentioned the bar. That's one of the examples. Specifically, the members mentioned need to change or modify the bar, the turn window where we pick up food after 9 holes, the halfway house, which is the restrooms between hole number 3 and 4, and the ladies' locker room, among others, are the facility improvements that you highlighted as most important. Members also are happy with the communication between the board and the membership, but they desire greater transparency, particularly in finance matters and governance. Let's now turn to the essential elements of the strategic plan, beginning with a brief review of our mission and our vision. Our mission statement is straightforward and reflects the members' desire for golf experience and the settings in which we operate. We are already a premier club in Southwest Florida, but have the opportunity to become a premier club in Southwest Florida. Our mission statement is straightforward as well, and it has not changed since the members' opposition. In fact, 89% of the members agree that the mission statement reflects what the club should strive to be and become in the years ahead. You have read this mission statement and this vision statement before, and I think it would be important that we continue to get familiar with it. We might modify it as we may modify the plan in the coming years, or adjust it, or change it. But this is what we desire to become. So now, let's move to the strategic initiatives. In the interest of time, I will talk about this at a very high level. Again, I remind you, we send you the executive summary, and we will forward to you the full plan for the additional information. In the strategic plan, we group the strategic initiatives and recommendations into 5 strategic initiatives. Each one of these initiatives includes areas of focus, recommended action plans, timelines, success metrics, and key performance indicators. Let's take a look at the first one, governance. The goal here is to implement industry-leading governance practices that foster trust, ensure sustainability, and enhance member value. Ted's going to spend a little more time after to discuss some of the details of this particular initiative. The second initiative is membership development. This will include strategic recruitment, a defined marketing plan, and dedicated resources. We know this initiative is critically important and the key to our ability to raise capital and reach the 275 membership target. We will continue to emphasize our current member referral program and expand into other markets. What we're doing works and it has delivered many members to us. We will continue to foster and support that program, but we need to move on to recruiting from other markets. If we want cases forecast to be a reality, and we want that to be the minimum reality, but to get to 275, we have to do a lot of things, and we are planning on that. The third initiative is facility enhancement. This will include a master plan to protect, preserve, and expand the main assets of our club. In this initiative, we will include the water security project. The fourth initiative, creating a compelling experience for our members. This includes, we're happy with the dining services, with the changes that have occurred, and as Ted or Casey mentioned, we have made a lot of progress and have much more participation from the members, but we have to do more. It includes elevated dining, social programming to match our golf experience. The goal here is to foster a vibrant community where CCC First becomes the members' natural choice. The fifth initiative is commitment to our team. This commitment will include competitive compensation, professional development, and a supportive work environment. This will enable us to provide exceptional member services. And TJ will come back, I think, at the end and talk a little bit about some other initiatives that we have undertaken within this one. Funding options, as it was stated by Casey, the board's operating assumption is that in general, members are not in favor of assessments to make facility improvements. I don't think members are in general in favor of assessments, but specifically to make facility improvements for us. We will fund our projects as capital becomes available unless we hear otherwise from them. I'd like to close and comment on our 4 core values. Out of 25 potential choices, our membership, you selected these 4 values as representative of who we are at Coral Creek. Professionalism, enthusiasm, commitment to excellence, and respect. This is what defines who we are, how we interact with one another. They guide our decision-making and direct us. I am very proud to be a member of a club that has these values. I hope you are as well. I think this is a great achievement. Finally, how are we going to get all of these things done? I went very quickly and very briefly. We have our master, Mr. Ted, telling us we can only do this for 10 to 15 minutes because you will run away from the clubhouse and go through seeking the hot dogs and the hamburgers and whatever else we promised. No, seriously. Ted is going to come back and talk about implementation and next steps. But let's remember, this is a 5-year plan. We have our very first strategic plan, and it's a 5-year plan. We're not in a hurry to do everything on year 1. It can be modified, it can be changed, it can be adjusted, but we have a base to start. It belongs to all of us. It's not the committee's plan, it's not the board plan, but it is a board-approved plan, and we will reference that plan as we move forward to implement. We are confident that the board and member participation will convert these initiatives into reality. Just as the board selected or appointed a strategic planning committee, now we are appointing and selecting task forces that will undertake each one of these initiatives and lead us forward. I encourage you to raise your hand and volunteer to be part of any one of these initiatives where you feel you have a desire to participate and can make a contribution. We know our priorities, which is basically these 5 strategic initiatives, and we think those some will be more important than others. And we now have a roadmap to follow. I want to thank you, as all of the members, for participating in the survey and providing us with the information. I think we recorded and registered your thoughts, your aspirations, your desires, and the opportunities that we have ahead of us. But I also want to thank the staff and everybody else in the committee who helped deliver this plan to you today. Thank you.
I never said they were running away.
Oh, by the way, I have a bet with Casey, so I win
I think she did win. I think she did. I think she did. I think she did, yeah. Okay, thanks to all, and Z, thank you. That was good. And thanks to all the members who served on that committee, labored over the survey, and delivered a great report to us. It is much appreciated. So that strategic plan is our first, right? And so the group had to do a really deep dive to make sure that it accurately represented the desires and the wishes of the majority of the members. So the strategic initiatives that Z has outlined will now become action plans. And the plans will be a roadmap to guide our decisions moving forward. And the board is committed to follow this. So there is, however, a good deal of variability in the timing of all these things, which I'll explain. Each initiative will be assigned to either TJ or a board member, and each chair will assemble a group of members who have either interest or experience in the specific area. For instance, governance and member experience won't really require additional dollars to complete. Water resources, facilities, master plan, and the clubhouse improvement will each require study, design, and funding to complete. The member recruitment program may or may not require funding depending upon what they're going to come up with for So the following will be the leaders of the initiatives. TJ is going to oversee the member experience along with a commitment to our team initiatives, and may want to add some member input along to help him out. Fresh off delivering the master plan or the strategic plan, Zara has offered to head up the membership development and assimilation initiative, and she's going to be working alongside Jim Murphy, Tom Cross, Jeff Moore, and Roland Emanuel, who is the current membership committee, to establish a recruitment plan and requirements to execute the plan. They're also going to determine if we need to add an individual to help us implement it. Don Smith, our newly elected VP, has a wealth of experience in development and construction, and he's going to chair the master planning and facilities task force. And he'll put a team together to review our current facilities, and as Z mentioned,
I guess your time's up.
Check your ear, Ted.
Last year the screen blew down. So I'm expecting that, I just got a couple more minutes, but anyway. So as Z mentioned, Don is going to head up the facilities master planning task force, and he's going to be focused on evaluating our clubhouse and what changes can be made to the bar, living room, dining room, and outdoor spaces to enhance member socialization and enjoyment. And I'll also be looking at potential improvements to the ladies' locker room. Yeah, so we're beginning to hand already. Good luck with that. We are going to need some help in this undertaking, and we have a membership here that is extraordinarily accomplished. We would love to hear from anyone with expertise in any of these areas who really has a willingness to get involved. I also wanted to make another point. We will not undertake any of these significant capital projects without complete disclosure, understanding by the membership, and approval from the membership. So to that end, one of the things that came up in the survey, transparency was highlighted as a deficiency. And we took that to mean kind of board communication and transparency. So going forward, we're going to be publishing brief monthly updates on the board activities, and this will start with our next board meeting, which is next week. We're also going to begin a quarterly report card or progress report on each one of these initiatives, so we can keep you guys informed along the way as to what's going on, whether we're having issues, whether things are going smoothly, etc. So you will expect to hear about those things. And we need our feet to the fire on these things as well. So that'll be a quarterly communication. Okay, on to the finish line here. Let me do a very quick recap of what you've heard this morning. Z just finished with the strategic plan. And please take a look at the executive summary that was emailed to everybody last Saturday. There's a lot to digest there, and there's a lot to do going forward. I'd like to also mention Mr. Alderdice here, who's been on board just since last May and has made a significant impact on our operations. He certainly came in at the right time. Because of his presence, the board's been able to act more strategically, and as we can confidently leave the day-to-day operation to him. So thanks, TJ. So he's been challenged to raise the bar, and in doing so, some changes have occurred to the team and the operations. But our entire staff is working hard to uphold the high standards that define the club, and we're working to create an environment where every member feels welcome and appreciated. These changes will take some time, but I do expect that our experience will continue to improve, and I really believe the best is yet to come. You also heard from Colin a few minutes ago, so the Greens Committee is going to continue their work to refine the golf course, and we remain committed to make no significant or architectural changes without input and approval from the Fazio team. This is probably a good time to get Ron Smith back and introduce TJ and Brandon to Ron, who weren't around the last time he visited. So Casey outlined our financial status earlier, and for those so inclined, there is a detailed report that was sent to everyone last Thursday. He and the Finance Committee, as you've seen, have done a great deal of work in the last couple of years. So as Joe takes over as treasurer role, he's going to be able to work from a very strong and stable base. And I can't overstate the contribution the Finance Committee has made here, in particular, Casey. We are financially healthy here, and in due in large part to their progress, and obviously Bill Bax was named in that as well. But thank you to your committee. As for the rest of the board members, Scott O'Connor is going to come in and take over where the great work that Amy started on the House Committee and build the momentum that Chef Foos has created. So, we're looking forward to that. Lindsay and Z are going to continue to lead the golf committee in representation of everyone, and we want to welcome Sharon Abinger to join us as the lender representative. We're delighted to have her on board. So in closing, I have a few more thank yous. Casey mentioned this earlier, but Jeff McCart really deserves a great deal of our thank you. Without his knowledge and contacts within the insurance industry, we would not have been able to complete the work on the golf house. He saved us countless hours of pushback and negotiation because of his efforts. We were able to receive a fair settlement from our insurance company. His work literally saved us, or meant hundreds of thousands of dollars to us. So if you see him, thank you. I also want to acknowledge Lindsay for chairing the renovation of the golf house. There is a great deal of effort expended by Lindsay, as well as the navigating a number of surprises that cropped up along the way. And the end result is terrific, and it sure is nice to be back in that building. So thank you, Lindsay. So a very big thank you to TJ and the rest of the whole staff here that work hard every day to make the club our happy place. And so we need to acknowledge that as well. So just to recap, in the last 31 months of ownership, 3 hurricanes, a new clubhouse roof, new golf house, new irrigation system, new general manager, head chef, greens team, $8.5 million worth of debt reduction, and our first strategic plan. So today we welcome 4 new board members, and so this is not exactly a static environment to be living in. None of this would have happened would have taken place without the 4 people stepping down from the board. Amy, Clay, Dan, Daniel, Bill LaPointe, and Casey have been very diligent, committed, smart, and very, very thoughtful. They've always tried to represent the entire membership in our discussions and decisions. They've offered deliberate thought, a great deal of hard work, and many selfless hours to setting up the club. Because of their efforts, we have bylaws, governance committees, dollars to move forward to further establish the club as a premier Florida entity. So we owe them respect and a huge thank you, and I will definitely miss their guidance, counsel, and hard work. So we say thank you to Amy, Dan, Bill, and Casey, and we welcome Sharon, Don, Joe, and Scott. We have big shoes to fill here. So that concludes presentations and comments. And I'd like to thank you guys who all came in person today. And we open it up for any questions you may have that we didn't get to or address this morning. So if anybody's got anything, you got Casey, I can't answer anything.
Just a comment. Thank you all for your service. It's amazing
actually, this is going to be presented to Casey in a separate ceremony. A gilded one. Yes, sir.
Can the board comment on the status of any commercial or residential, potential commercial residential developments surrounding the Coral Creek property?
Sure, we can do that. The Creekside neighborhood over here, there are 5 homes that are built. One is just about finished. So that is the 5th house. There are 10 lots over there. The club owns 1. I think there's a lot that may still be for sale over there. And they have their own homeowners association, and we interact with them on probably a weekly basis. By the way, I think, who is it? Let's see, do we have, let me think for a second. Who's, is there a Creekside representative here? Thank you. Bob Vano is the representative for that neighborhood over there, who's obviously a member. You have to be a member in order to build over there. As far as the property adjacent to our 5th hole, or on the other side of the 5th hole, it is owned by 2 members. They had some plans early on to build, potentially build a golf course. I think they've hit pause on that. We are interacting with them in a very cordial and fruitful way, and I don't expect any residential development is ever going to happen over there.
I have one thing on
Yeah, you want to add that?
I have one thing on that. So, the 2 members who own it, they came to us October, maybe,
Year and a half.
well, but the more recent, they offered us that land at what, a very bargain basement price, frankly. But it was still a level that would have required a fairly major assessment to do. And so the board said, no, we're not ready to do that right now. But I want to say this, and it's kind of the theme I mentioned before. It was clear, so Daniel, myself, and TJ were kind of a committee that interacted with Dave and Sharon, who's sitting right here. And I want to say this, and I hope I'm not speaking out of line. Sharon, you can correct me if I do. But in having those conversations, it became clear that they bought that land mostly or maybe entirely to protect it from development for this golf course. And it's just one more instance where you've got members just doing what they can for their fellow members. And I just want to say
Does that answer your question?
It does. How about the mobile home park across the street?
As far as we know, that's for sale. Z, do you have anything to add on what's going on there?
They're cleaning it up, fixing it, they have plans to put it up for sale, I understood.
I don't know if anybody heard that.
It is zoned for residential development.
It is, that's the trailer park zone for residential development. There was another question somewhere over there. Tony?
Hi, Ted. I think I'm the guy who asked about how did we get to $40 million of contingent liabilities for the member portion of debt. That's going to take, according to the slide, some 40 years, which means there must be a fairly big backlog of previous members who are waiting for new members to come in. Do I understand that properly?
Yeah.
Casey?
Casey.
So there's 34, I believe, members who have resigned who have not been paid off yet, right? We started with 294, I believe 26 have been paid off. So new members don't have that, right? So that would mean we're down to 268. People that still need to be paid off their 125 grand, right? And I say it's going to take decades because, to be frank, until the last member who was a member at the time passes away, it won't be paid off unless the board decides to use capital money at some point. And so that's why. But again, it's self-funding, so we don't have to come out of pocket for that. It's self-funding.
I don't think they need to die when you grow free.
A lot of those, I mean, I assume that a lot of those folks, are gonna pass on before they even can get their deposits back if it takes 20 years, right?
No, it doesn't take 20 years. The next member to get paid off, the next person who joins, I looked at it last week. I joined in February or resigned in February of 22, so 3 years ago. So right now, it's running about 3 years to get your money back. I mean, it could grow, it could shrink, I don't know. I don't think it's ever gonna be 20 years. But yeah, it's a few years, it is. Unless the board decides to use capital someday to pay it off earlier.
Well, that presupposes that nobody else donates their,
That's true.
which is on the table for just, you know. Anybody else? Any other questions? Okay, we're gonna be serving lunch, TJ, right? Soon, nearby. It starts in a few minutes. Thank you all very, very much for being here.